Hello everybody and welcome into the World Center of Racing Daytona International Speedway, where the PGR Intimidator Superspeedway Series will battle it out in the Craftsman Truck Series here tonight. I'm your host, Austin Green, joined by PGR co-commentator Landon Veleke. Landon, good to be back here tonight, kicking off quarter three. How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. It's going to be really exciting to watch these trucks rip around Daytona here tonight. We're used to kind of seeing these night Daytona races in the light series, you know, something I'm used to broadcasting. It's going to be cool to see all these pros, the actual Intimidator licenses, try and take it on tonight.
Certainly is. Well, kicking things off here tonight with your starting grid, the man on the pole for the first race in quarter number 3 is none other than Freddie Bosnes in the number 54 truck, but down a 51.3 to get that lap time. Dylan Basin will roll off on the outside pole in second here tonight. It'll be Richard Elliott back in third. First Coke Series driver in the field, Veleke will roll off on the outside of row number 2. Alex Hill back in fifth with Kyler Wynn, the Canadian driver, rolling off in 6th. Nathan Harper back in the 7th spot with Jack Shack's very own Trevor Oswinoff in 8th. David Flanagan, a teammate to that number 89 truck, he'll start back in 9th. And it's Corey Wright rounding out your top 10.
11th position here tonight will be the Cook Series driver for 6 Karma eSports, Mr. Daniel Falkingham himself. Nick Seipel to his outside in 12th. 13th will be Jackson Byes. Matt Frady, a newcomer to the PGR world, in 14th. Cody Nagels for Nightmare Esports, 15th. Nash Brambilla for Team PGR in 16th. Axel Smith, 17th. Chris Blanchard, 18th. John Ellis Jr. in 19th. And Brandon Broadfoot will be starting in 20th.
Starting in 21st tonight is going to be Gordon Glidewell. Back in the 22nd spot, it'll be Mark Pearson next to him. Mike Davenport back in at 23rd. And on the outside of row number 12 will be Jared Haynes. Moving on back to the 25th starting position here tonight, it's going to be Jeff Merck alongside Kenny Reel in 26th. Michael Barksdale will start 27th in the double zero with Cameron Craighead to his outside in 28. And rounding out the top 30 is going to be Zachary Harry and Jacob Carter.
Next up, we're going to have Sean Corbett in the 31st position here tonight. Michael Wingo to his outside in 32nd. Dylan Jones, 33rd. Aubrey Thompson for McCullough Motorsports, 34th. John Ward, 35th. Joshua McCullough, 36th. Tucker McClendon will be 37th. Quentin Steinbach, 38th. Kenneth McCullough in 39th. David Drohan, a new name here tonight, in 40th. And Mark Von Dell from McCullough Motorsports rounds out the field in 41st position.
And taking a look at your race info here tonight. Again, we are at the famous Daytona International Speedway, 2.5 miles in length. 30-plus degrees of banking in the corners, and a lot of pushing and shoving. 60 laps will be the distance we go here tonight. Everybody's got 50% fuel tanks, 2 sets of tires in the pits. No fast repairs here tonight. Fixed setups as always, and 1 green-white checkered if we were to need it. Track temp 81 degrees starting out. That's air temp. Track temp just a couple of degrees warmer at 83. Winds nice and calm, which means they will not be a factor. Well, the wait is over. These guys were curious about what the first race of quarter number 3 was going to be, and we have got our answer. The Truck Series at one of the best tracks in all of stock car racing. Who is going to get the first win? And it's still a lot of drivers looking to try to lock themselves in to, of course, the PGR Championship. You got to get yourself, I believe it's either a win or a podium to be in that battle. So here we go. The iRacing.com pace car is going to make the left turn for the first time here tonight, and we are getting ready to go green. Quarter number 3 starts now. Green flag is in the air. We are racing at Daytona.
Heading down the back straightaway here at Daytona International Speedway, Dylan Basin in that Matt Crafton number 88 paint scheme with the edge just barely over Freddie Bosnes coming into turn number 3. Bosnes with the advantage now. Down on the bottom side with Richard Elliott and Alex Hill in tow. Inside lane looking a little bit strong early, but it's really too early to tell that. Usually at nighttime Daytona track temps are cooler. It kind of messes with those upper lanes a little bit, but so far so good for Basin, Ray, and Wynn in that outside lane.
2x2 as they cross the stripe for the first time around. The 88 now starting to surge on the outside. Dylan Basin going to drop clear with a push from the 27. And now in front of your previous leader, Freddie Bosnes. No third lane up front just yet, and none as you go further back either. Everybody minding their P's and Q's at the moment, but we know they'll dice it up here once we get a few laps under the belt.
Yeah, 100%. It's all a little bit of conservatism being employed right now. It's lap 2, for goodness sake. You don't want to do anything too stupid right now. We don't have a faster pair tonight. Let's sit and ride for a little bit. 59 laps to go, coming to 58. Just sit and ride. No, absolutely no need to be going crazy, trying to cause crashes, drive yourself up through the field. Everyone's sitting nice and tidy. It is, once again, still very early, and every time I seem to talk about this, they start going 3 and 4 and even 5 wide. So we'll stay tuned in to see if that even happens. Right now, Basin still with the advantage in the lead of the race. Baznez getting a little bit warm down there, lifting off the back bumper of Dylan Basin. That's going to allow Malik Ray and Kyler. Oh, man. Basin getting real squirrely with the push from Baznez, and that's really going to allow Ray and Wynn on the top side to get clear.
And we had a little bit of a mess trying to develop towards the middle of the pack. In fact, they do go 3 wide here further back. Looks like the 22 and the 7 are the first ones to try to fan it out here. We'll see if they can get anything really lined up. I believe one of those is the 7 of Jared Haynes, who's already made up a couple of positions from where he started this race at. And as he continues his charge towards the front, not really going to get too much help right now. Davenport's there, but now the 11 of Kenny Reel going to jump to the 3rd lane. This is really going to cost some momentum. Meanwhile, back up front, still 2 by 2. Malik Ray leads the way on the inside, and it's the 82 of Kyler Wynn on the outside. The Jack Shacks, Trevor Osborne doing all the pushing up top, and the 88 of Dylan Basin doing all the pushing on the bottom.
That 3rd lane really trying to struggle to develop right now. We saw Nagels reel a few others. As I say that, Ellis taking it topside with Nagels to try and make something happen. Jeff Merck, Cameron Craighead in tow as well. That's a pretty already well-defined and well-organized group of 4 trucks. They are absolutely rolling that 3rd lane right now. Ellis up to the 4th row, making the 3rd row out of turn number 4. Going to be having a look at the lead here in just a little bit.
Yeah, John Ellis Jr., one of the veterans of the series, trying to make his way to the front here early. Look at the run. When you get that 3rd lane first going, that's your best opportunity. You get so much momentum on that initial surge to the front, and they're going to pull 1, maybe 2 clear. Nagels is going to go right with them. Cody Nagels pushes himself and John Ellis Jr. out to the lead, but you can see what it did, Landon. As soon as those 2 trucks jump down, the other 2 that helped him get there are going to fall to the back. Here comes the 27, though, Malik Ray trying to make a charge. What will John Ellis Jr. do going into 3?
I'm so surprised by Ellis and Nagels. They had such a tremendous run. We don't really see tandem racing here in these trucks, but that's almost what it looked like they did. They pulled away from Basin and Baznez behind them. Obviously, they caught back up to him now, and that's going to allow that outside that doesn't have to check up for 2 trucks in front of them, being Ray and Wynn. Ozarath and Corey Wright in the 4 up there. They're going to get all that momentum back, and now Malik Ray and Kyler Wynn is almost back to exactly where we started with these 2 controlling both of these lanes.
Oh, Freddie Baznez in the back. Got really out of shape. I'm not sure if that was something intentional or what, but that truck really danced around for a moment as they went down the short chute towards turn number 1. Now, a little bit further back here, some of the big names we're used to seeing up front that really haven't made their way there just yet. Daniel Falkingham in the 88, currently sitting behind the 40. I'm not sure if that's Alex Hill. No, Hill's a few spots further up. But here comes Kenny Reel. He saw a checkup on the outside, and now he's going to try to take advantage to see if he can make up a few spots. I see the 00. Michael Barksdale, he's made up 10 positions from where he started this race at. And by the way, we mentioned it at the start, Landon, 50% fuel. I think these guys might be thinking about green flag pit stops in about 10 laps or so.
They're going to be needing to figure that out pretty soon. They still got a little bit of time. You know, these guys on the outside lane, especially you see Flanagan and Reel in the back trying to make this 3rd lane work. Flanagan in 31, he just bails on it. I don't know how Ellis and Nagels and all them made it work so efficiently last time. Kenny Reel's been on the 3rd lane, rip riding the wall the whole race, but just can't find any help. Now he's starting to get some in the form of his teammate David Flanagan and the 60 of Jeff Merck down the back straightaway, and that run is now finally starting to develop for those drivers.
Yeah, still 2 by 2 though for about the first 3 rows. That 3rd lane though will slowly make a charge with 3 trucks. Boy, if they can get a 4th, they'll really get things rolling here in a hurry. How about the 60 though? Jeff Merck, a little bit of a different paint scheme for him, but making his way to the front is, oh man, they really squeezed Trevor Osborne out there as they were going by, but look at the run it gets. Malik Ray up top with his teammate, though. I don't think they're going to have enough. Let's see. The 31 of Flanagan, he does. Slams the door on Malik Ray going into turn 1. New leader for the Jack Shack, it's David Flanagan.
Great run on the front straightaway that was developed. Merck finding a spot in line just in front of Trevor Osborne. What a move by Jeff Merck to slot himself in 3rd line in the middle, and that leaves Kenny Reel, the man, all alone once again on that 3rd lane. But good teammate right there by Trevor Osborne, letting his teammate down in front of him to be that 4th in lane. Now, I'm kind of surprised. We've seen this 3rd lane up here absolutely rip twice, but nobody else has really tried to make anything of it yet. I wouldn't imagine we're having a green flag pit stop approach really too soon. I'm really surprised not to see like Falkingham back there. Maybe Nash Brambilla, Matt Frady, someone we've seen very aggressive in the light series, not really trying to make that third lane work just yet.
I would agree. I wonder, though, if some of these guys are maybe a little bit concerned about fuel mileage. Again, I would think that they could probably make it at least 16 laps. And, of course, if they can make it at least 15, then it's an even number of stops. You don't have to save fuel. But if it was less than 15, I could see the fuel mileage concern. I would wonder if maybe that has anything to do with the, I don't want to say lack of aggression, but maybe lack of what we're used to seeing, as they've been 2x2 a lot longer than what we usually see at the start of these races. But I mean, that leaves a lot of opportunity for these guys back here. Anybody that wants to go third, although doesn't seem like there's a lot of takers right now. Tucker McClendon back here taking it easy, along with Sean Corbett. But a few drivers sneakily making their way closer to the front. McCullough Motorsports is Aubrey Thompson. He's made up 6 positions from where he started this race at. As we hop on board with Aubrey, when you're this far back in the pack, Landon, always makes you nervous because you really don't have too many places to run if they start piling it up. But when they're 2x2, I think you got to feel pretty confident, at least more confident than when they're 3 wide, that everybody can kind of hold it together.
When you're that far back in the pack and when the whole field is only 2 wide, your next biggest concern is the checkups that can come from it, especially if someone's trying to save some fuel and maybe lets off for too long of a time or something of that nature. That's when that really hurts you in the back of the pack, because you don't know, you might anticipate that checkup. The guy behind you might not anticipate it and then drive right through you, and then you're in the midst of a 20-car pileup in the back of the field. That's the only concern for someone like Aubrey Thompson sitting back there. John Ward also sitting with someone that we have, what does he have, 7 PGR wins, someone that knows how to find success in this series. He's sitting back too right now, but he's got a little bit of distance between him and the truck behind him. He should be okay for now. We're taking it back up front. David Flanagan controlling these lanes masterfully right now in front of John Ellis and Malik Ray. That said, he does not receive pushes very well from Malik Ray. Every time Malik Ray's gotten to that bumper, Flanagan's getting spun somewhat sideways down into the right side of John Ellis. Luckily, we've been able to avoid any sort of crashing so far.
And it's always weird. That's the way it seems to work with different pairs. That's why, for a lot of guys, they spend pretty much the entire race trying to find out who is going to be their best drafting partner and who they can push the best. And that's what you use these laps for. These guys are figuring it out right now. But a couple things to note. Cody Nagel's new paint scheme this week. Still on Nightmare eSports, but a really good-looking color scheme there for the number 6. Looking to see if he can make a return to victory lane here tonight. And then a little bit further back, Trevor Oswanoff currently sitting in the top 10 in the 9th position. He is one of the drivers that is carrying an onboard view for us here tonight. So as we hop on board here briefly with Trevor Oswanoff, he's looking to see if he can get the job done here tonight. And right now, currently sitting just behind the 11 of Kenny Real, who I do believe is a teammate. And the more guys that you can get lined up that are teammates, the better of a chance you're going to have if we see green flag pit stops, which we're getting closer and closer to. Probably right around a handful of laps away or so at the moment, if these guys can keep it green. As it looks like we had a straggler briefly split 3 wide further back here. I think that's looks like the 38 machine. That's Jacob Carter, not going to make up any ground. He'll have to slot back in line just behind. I can't tell exactly who that is. Looks like the 25 of Quentin Steinbach. The 23 in Asheville on his inside. But some of these guys towards the back of the pack, Landon, I don't blame them for the approach they're taking here, which is just take it easy and kind of ride around. I know a lot of my fellow McCullough Motorsports teammates like to kind of go with that strategy, but I mean, we haven't had green flag pit stops out of the first run, and I can't tell you how many weeks. I almost worry that if you're too far back, you could lose the pack.
That's 100% true. So that's a very big worry when it comes to something like trucks also. Trucks kind of have somewhat of a struggle leaving the pits. They like to spin their tires a lot, and if you can't really get control over that, that's going to be a problem for you. That said, it's only lap 14. If this pit stop comes pretty early, they don't really have that many laps on the tires. That shouldn't really be a concern. Then the problem comes, what if the entire field tries to come in and pit all at once? We have 30-something cars, like, what is it, 41 cars here tonight? If we have 41 guys trying to pit, we're not going to have that, but we're going to have maybe somewhere close to that. Trying to come in all at one time, that's just a recipe for disaster. We've pulled it off before. We'll have to stay tuned in, really, to see if we're going to pull it off again. And I'm going to re-emphasize something I said earlier. Usually, when we're coming to about 5 laps until the green flag pit stop, we see these guys in the back form up and try and get that track position. I'm still extremely confused after the amazing runs we saw out of David Flanagan and John Ellis and Cody Nagels. Nobody else is trying to gain that track position in preparation for this pit stop just yet.
And you know, the other thing that we usually see is the outside line try to shift down and blend into the inside line, but haven't really seen much of that. In fact, this outside line is still well developed. Malik Ray, Kyler Wynn, two of the teammates up there leading it, but definitely haven't seen a ton of drivers look like they feel forced to get down to the inside just yet. We've seen a few of them actually jump up. Bosnez did it through 1 and 2, so maybe these guys can stretch it a little bit longer on fuel than I initially thought, but man, I really just don't see anybody going any further than lap 20, which who knows, Landon, maybe that was a little bit of the fuel strategy. If anybody thought they could make it that far, that would take away a pit stop. Again, we'll keep an eye on it, but not really seeing a lot of these leaders decide to make any moves just yet. Is further back. That was Tucker McClendon there who had a big moment. They're still trying to gather it up back here. Hold your breath. Tucker McClendon, he's going to hold on. I think it was the 97 Axel Smith who he might have tangled with. It was either him or Wingo in the 01. Couldn't tell. Either way, everybody keeps it together. We are now 16 laps of green flag racing through the books here at Daytona.
I will point out, you're talking about what just happened in the back. That happened just around last week's winner, Jared Haynes, the winner of the last PGR Intimidator Superspeedway Series race, someone that's had a ton of momentum really the past 2 weeks in general. Cashes left and right, getting wins and podiums left and right. Granted, that was the Gen 6 car. That's something that's a little bit of Jared's specialty, but this is back to bread and butter basics. And here we go. Here come all the pit stops. Not, I say all of them, not all of them. We got quite a few of guys coming in, mainly the leaders. They got Basin, Ray, Wynn staying out, it appears. Nagels is in, Flanagan's in, and just about every other member of this front pack.
There was some big slides. I was just getting ready to note that Malik Ray had fallen way back. I don't know if it was intentional or what, but either way, he got in line just in time and was able to eventually make it down to the inside to pit. But, I mean, yeah, that was about a, 15, 20 truck stop, and everybody looked really clean through the first round of pit stops. They didn't make it to that lap 20 mark, though, so I don't think anybody's going to make this on a 2-stop. We'll have to see if we get another big group that decides to bring it in this time. Kyler went on the inside, but Real, Bosnez, and a few others still stuck up top.
I'm taking a look at them, see if they're going to come in now. Sure enough, we've got everybody else that stayed out this past time. Kyler Wynn sending it into pit road. This is going to be tight for him. I think he's going to make it. Very impressive entry by Kyler Wynn, and everybody else getting in clean. So far, so good. Maybe in the middle of the pits, we might have some issues. A lot of guys trying to come down in front of other drivers. I think we're going to be okay for now. Now, obviously, what matters now, we're still green flag. How are these two packs going to blend together? That is the key here. We saw a lot of the leaders come in that time, so they had a little bit of a track position advantage, but we also had some of the guys that were still in the lead, like Kyler Wynn and Trevor Osmoroth, Kenny Reel, a few guys in the second pack coming in, trying to make something happen here. It's all going to matter how these two groups blend together in about 2 laps time.
And here comes Cody Nagels leading that group that already pit. He's working here with Malik Ray, and there you see all the trucks. Boy, they absolutely gapped a few of these guys, even only pitting a lap earlier. We're definitely going to see the herd thin out a little bit, but let's see how some of the front runners did and how they're going to blend out. There's Barksdale Ward. They're going to be trying to struggle to hang on here, but the ones that I think are going to be okay is from about Nathan Harper up. Jeff Merck, Freddie Bosnez, and then, of course, Kyler Wynn, Trevor Osmoroth, all with fantastic stops. Can't forget about the 77 of Alex Hill either. So those three, though, going to have to be careful because when they get caught by this pack, Nagels is going to have a huge head of steam. What will they try to do about it?
Looks like they're not going to do anything about it right now. They're just going to sit there, and honestly, probably a good decision. If someone tried to go there and block that, that would have just caused a crash. When these guys are probably going to end up with a little bit of a breakaway, you don't want that to happen. So everyone's playing nice right now. You see Nagels, Ray, and now Jackson Byes was able to clear down. David Flanagan stays up, so that's probably a smart decision for David. He wants that second lane so he can try and control this with a couple of his teammates out here. I think that's exactly what he's going to do. Trevor Osmoroth hops up, but now Malik Ray hops up too, and that's going to be a problem for Cody Nagels as that outside lane is ripping right now down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and this front pack getting a little racy. I'm a little surprised, to be honest, as getting some data here that Zachary Harry may have had an issue. Getting reports that number 94 truck came to a stop. I believe this may be Zachary's first race here tonight, so shout out to him for that, but hopefully he didn't have any major issues. Although as it stands right now, it looks like he is not being scored on the lead lap in that 40th position. We'll go take a quick look at what the reports were here. Was this coming into a pit stop or something different? Oh no, him and Wingo got together coming through the tri-oval. Man, what a save by Zachary to hold on to that truck. He has to cut through the pits, but boy, that was a huge moment for the 94 and almost was our first caution of the night. But as we go back up front now, I'm surprised to see some of these guys getting as racy as they are, because I'll tell you what, Landon, we thinned out the pack quite a bit. I mean, I'm looking at it here, and I think we've only got about 21 trucks left in the lead pack. We had 40 start the race.
Right, and I want to say, to the effect of people trying to get all racy up here, there's one guy that's really getting racy, and that's David Flanagan. While we were looking at what just happened to Zachary Harry, David Flanagan's out here doing everything about getting hooked again by Malik Ray. But David Flanagan's out here. He was doing everything in his power to get underneath Malik Ray every time he pushed him clear, and he was finally able to do it about the 4th try of doing so. Now he's got Cody Nagels and Alex Hill behind him, and we're back to what we started with Flanagan controlling these lanes out of turn 2.
And Jackson Byes got shuffled down to the apron coming out of the tri-oval. Another close call. As speaking of close calls, now getting reports that Jacob Carter had an issue as well. I'm not sure if he was coming out of the pits here or if this was something different. Looks like he may have been coming out of the pits and down on that flat apron trying to carry as much speed as he possibly can here. And does he bring that truck to a halt or does he just lose it? Oh, he's getting a little bit loose, gets in the grass. But it seems like, I think he's going to be able to hold on here. Yeah, he does, but certainly some troubles there for the 38 trying to get back up to speed. So a couple close calls here, Landon, but again, everybody seeming to keep it together. That gives us a chance to mention when we expect the next pit stop. Man, Flanagan's got to be careful. He almost got turned around right there by the 77 at Hill and then almost got split, but we're going to hold pit stop talks off because they're getting racy. Alex Hill and Kyler Wynn are throwing haymakers up here for the lead.
I mean, I can't believe what I'm watching right now. This is insane racing by these guys. And obviously no surprise here. Alex Hill going at it with Kyler Wynn, 2 of the most aggressive drivers we have out here. Alex Wynn, he will throw a block whether he's clear or not. Luckily, he was clear on that attempt right there. Now he's going to do it again. He's going to throw Kyler into the wall, and he's going to come down and trash the field. Nagels, Ray, just about the rest of this whole entire pack's involved. Craighead and a few others.
Man, you hate to see that. These guys had such a good race going, and I just don't get it. I mean, I'm assuming these guys may have had something they weren't happy about with each other, but, man, we had such a good green flag run going. You hate to see it get ruined by a little bit of beefing up front less than halfway through the race, but this made a lot of guys pay, including Kyler Wynn. Alex Hill got away initially. I'm not sure if he's going to get an EOL. I couldn't quite tell from the view which one caused it. I saw a lot of blocking between him, but I think Kyler Wynn was just saying, you know what, if you want to block me, I'm just going to go up top, and it looked like Kyler was there, and I don't think Alex felt like giving it to him, but we're going to go back and look at it before we make any final judgments. Saw quite a few, Landon. I don't think we had anybody with... I didn't see any massive hits. Saw a lot of cars scattered through the grass, so we'll have to go and see just how many people were involved. It was quite a few. So let's just go back and start breaking this down because we know it's going to take a little bit. And as we look for that, I'll tell you what, before we do that, I do want to go back up front because I'm curious about if anybody makes a pit stop here first. And then we'll go back and look at a few different replays. But just live timing, Landon, we had a pretty good run there, and tough to see that happen between the 2 leaders.
I can't say I'm surprised, really, when you see, like, 2 guys like Alex Hill and Kyler Wynn go at it. It's fun for us to watch, right? Sit up here in the crowd, up here in the booth, as a fan of this, as a driver of this, like you and me are, and then you got all the audience out here tuning into it. You want to see that, and that's what we just saw out here. I have the voice comms on. There's not really communication going on about what just happened, and that's kind of astonishing to me. I thought Alex Hill and Kyler Wynn would be going at it. Not at all. They're just nothing. They're all talking about something else. But that said, I'm with you on your point about not really any crazy large hits here. I'm looking about the most spectacular thing in this crash. Cody Nagels getting it, all 4 tires off the ground in the grass, but it sits back down, which is great news for him. Looking at Axel Smith, Cameron Craighead, Malik Ray does get a piece of this, as well as Jared Haynes. Jackson Byes, I think it's away okay. Nathan Harper involved as well. So at the end of the day, yeah, we had a good, nice green flag run going. You know this is going to happen at some point, and we just had it here on lap 22.
And I was just looking, a lot of drivers making pit stops here. So with that, now it gives us a chance. Let's go back and take a look at what went wrong to bring out your first caution of the night. So it all starts back here, well, excuse me, I should say up here, but with Kyler Wynn and Alex Hill. And this had been going on for about a lap or so. We saw in the backstretch, Kyler tried to make a move. Alex said, I don't think so. And then coming off of 4, I think Kyler just said, I don't appreciate that. Kyler, I don't think really necessarily feels like he has to split Alex there. I mean, I know Kyler, he's a heck of a driver, and being the lead pusher is always a phenomenal spot to be in here at these drafting tracks. But if you're upset with the guy in front of you, or you feel like maybe you don't like the way he's driving you, then you're going to make the move on him. I mean, what else do you do besides split him? It's letting him know you don't appreciate it without obviously wrecking him, and that's exactly what Kyler does, jumps up, and boy, that was a little interesting. When we play that in slow-mo, it almost looked like when Kyler initially went up, something just just briefly snapped the 77 truck, like before he drove up. See if we can slow this down again and see if that was the case or if that was actually wheel input. Watch it again really slow. Watch as Kyler jumps up here. Right there. I can't tell if that's wheel input from Alex Hill or if that's a little bit of netcode or some contact from Wynn. Again, we'll go to the cockpit view here next to actually find out, but once Kyler gets in the wall and comes back down, I mean, they're 3 wide. It's just nowhere to go for all these drivers. And then look at them all fan out here. You see Nagels, as Landon mentioned, big airtime there coming through the tri-oval. And the other way to kind of, I guess, get an early answer on this would be if Alex Hill got an end of the line, which I'm showing him being scored in 24th here. That's not quite at the end of the line yet, so let's go watch his cockpit view here and see if we can get any better determination of what it looked like happened. All right, watch his hands as he's coming off at turn number 4. Man, I think from the wheel inputs, I think that he did try to drive up there to throw a block. Thought for a minute from the chopper view, but, I mean, you see him move the wheel to the right there. I could be wrong, Landon, but from the 2 views we've seen so far, I do think the 77 was trying to cover a block on the 82 and just not clear.
I mean, that's what it was. Really plain and simple. That's exactly what just happened here. It's 2 guys, like I was saying, it's 2 guys that we know are as aggressive as possible when it comes to racing. They know exactly what they're doing at all times. And it's just 2 of the best simply going at it for the sake of going at it. And that's what we just had happen here. I was looking at Kyler Wynn. Obviously, when he got thrown up into the wall right there, not much he can do. He tried to save it, it looked like, from my view. And then him, in the event of him trying to save it, he comes back down into the field and takes out a few of them. Nothing against his doing, obviously, but either way. Very interesting to kind of have that. I will point out also, Alex Hill was given the penalty for that incident by our race control, Michael Triscaro, tonight. A pretty easy job for Mike so far, I will say. I've almost half the race done without having to throw a yellow or figure out who caused the yellow or anything of that nature. But another quick note, I will say Chris Blanchard here tonight, the driver number 9, he missed tonight's grid. He was just waved around the pace car, I believe, to receive himself back on the lead lap. I'll have to tune into that. Timing and Scoring's playing games with me at the moment, but keep an eye on that. Anybody trying to tune in for Chris Blanchard tonight, I believe he is back on the lead lap.
By the way, you know what you saw Cody Nagels do here, which was actually pretty cool to see, is you talk about when a driver wrecks, not giving up driving as we go back to green here, but he got back in the throttle when he started sliding up onto the tri-oval, stayed in the gas, and kept that truck from taking a huge hit with the rear end. So nice piece of driving there for Cody even after he wrecked. But now that we're back under green, the leaders are shuffled up, and it's now Nick Seipel, Daniel Falkingham leading the way as they climb the banking through 1 and 2. And as everybody tries to get up to speed, the outside line not very organized right now. Still looking for its identity, but it's Jeff Merck leading. He wants no part of it. He's going to drop down as well, and that'll clear the way out here for the 45 as Sean Corbett rocking some new colors here tonight.
To be honest, I'm not sure what happened to that outside line. It just absolutely disintegrated on the restart. But it is now being led by Sean Corbett and Dylan Jones, who's now made his way up here, gaining a little bit more track position. We saw him start in, I believe it was 33rd position tonight. Now he's trying to push Sean Corbett up here, and he's doing a pretty good job of it so far. And what is really important is that for Sean Corbett, Dylan Jones, Axel Smith all in this line, we've seen these sort of upper lanes be very, very fast tonight. So, again, I'm a little bit confused. Yes, I know it's still early, but I'm confused that nobody else just tried to hop up in front of that run. John Ward had the opportunity. I believe Nash Brambilla had one. Nathan Harper, Falkingham did too. And now, look, Nick Seipel is, well, he's still content getting pushed by Falkingham, it looks like. But Seipel is the leader. At some point, he's going to try and attempt to control these lanes in front of Corbett and in front of Falkingham. But again, I'm just a little bit perplexed at how we're not seeing really that amount of aggression just yet. Even though it makes sense that we're not, we usually see it anyway. So it's a little bit odd to me that we're not seeing that.
The other thing that I thought was odd was we had a second pack, and in fact we still do. It developed just within that first lap. It almost makes me think something happened on the restart. Can't really figure out any other reason why these guys got separated so quick. So we're actually going to go back and look at this restart one time real quick and see if we can figure out what happened here to get everybody so separated. So let's see if we can go all the way down to our turn 1 cam here.
We're crashing live. Big crash. Michael Wingo, Jacob Carter involved. Out of turn number 2. Sorry to interrupt, Austin, not Dawson. My goodness, I apologize. It looks like we just had a little 2-car incident right here. Michael Wingo getting turned in turn number 2. Jacob Carter in the 38 catching a big piece of it as well.
Yeah, we see the damage on the 01 of Michael Wingo right here. big damage on the front nose of his Chevy Silverado, actually on a few different corners of that truck. So no fast repairs. You got to go in and fix as much as you can optionally, but certainly going to take some competitive fight out of that truck for the rest of this race, just as we were about at the halfway point. And I think this was the concern, though, obviously, as cautions breed cautions. Second one of the night, but pretty close to the first one. Let's go back and look at it here, and then we'll talk more about what may happen on that restart. So this is Flanagan and Wingo kind of running near each other as they go into turn number 3. And these two weren't, or excuse me, turn number 1, this looks like. These two weren't really necessarily right on the back bumper of the pack. Flanagan's coming up. Wingo's a little high. Flanagan says, okay, I'll go under. And then Wingo looks to me from that view, just starts coming down the racetrack. Flanagan maybe goes up a little bit at the end, but definitely looks like Wingo starts to come down. Obviously, you question maybe why the 31 wanted to go 3 wide. I'm thinking it's either he felt like the 01 was a little bit slow or couldn't tell if Wingo was trying to get out of the way. But, man, there came Jacob Carter with a big run. I think he already committed to the outside and just had absolutely nowhere to go.
That's what it appears to be. I really feel bad for this view I'm looking at of Jacob Carter right now. Last minute, he yanked that truck up to the outside, and it was just wrong place, wrong time, because at that same time, Michael Wingo started spinning up the racetrack. And honestly, the start of it, it does look like it is aggressive by Flanagan, but it's a clean move by Flanagan. It does appear that Michael Wingo starts kind of coming down the racetrack a little bit across Flanagan's nose, and that's going to end up spinning him around and then collecting the 38 of Jacob Carter.
Yeah, as we go to the chopper view, you can see it actually doesn't look like Flanagan really moves at all. Just Wingo again coming down the racetrack. And obviously not much room here when you do get 3 wide anyway. Not nearly as much room as what we see at a Talladega, for example, where these guys can do 4 wide. But, you know, I just wonder if Wingo maybe wasn't expecting it as part of the issue there. And obviously once it happens, you don't have much time to really do much about it. He almost saved this truck, though. Look at this. I mean, he's straight. He's got the wheel back left. But then this second correction here, it just unfortunately never catches for him. Just goes down the racetrack. And then eventually it does get back to the right. And yeah, Jacob Carter, man, that's about as tough of a break as you can get. One truck's spinning, but you're just carrying so much speed here. Sometimes it's too hard to get slowed down in time and just barreling into Michael Wingo. And I think that's really what ultimately gave those two trucks as much damage as I think they now have.
That's true, and I want to point something else out real quick. There's one of our favorites, as we have in any one of these races, that very, very narrowly avoided getting absolutely destroyed in this. I'm taking a look at it now, is Veleke Ray. He was back here in the back as a result of this last crash that we had. Michael Wingo had just overcorrected back to the right just in time not to come down and wipe out the right side of Veleke Ray's number 27 truck. That's good for Veleke Ray. Obviously bad news for Wingo with that overcorrect, and then Jacob Carter as well. I will point out RC tonight, Race Control has deemed that one on Michael Wingo. I think we kind of saw that coming with the replays that we saw. That will be the result of the penalties from this caution.
For Veleke Ray, yeah, we saw just from the view of the 38 how close it was. This is what it looked like from Veleke Ray's point of view. Oh, man, and you hear just that slight lift of a throttle, and I'll tell you what that did for him. That was just enough of a lift that he could yank that truck down to about halfway onto the apron, which gave him just enough turn to sneak by before the 01 got down there. So nice job right there by Veleke to make sure he missed that one. And as we go back live, obviously a lot of the field going in there to top off on fuel, and the two trucks involved going to fix damage. That gives us a brief chance here. I want to go back to this green flag again and see if we can get any sort of idea of what went so wrong here. I don't know if these guys were just spaced out on the restart or what. You see a lot of the field in the back lined up single file, and really a lot of gaps between everybody. And as they get going on the restart, looks like about midway through further back, not everybody gets the best restart, but I don't really see any major checkups, Landon. I think that's just kind of the result of a long single file line from drivers that decided to top off on fuel. And sometimes that's a risk you run. Not a big deal early in the race, and obviously the trucks have a lot more of a drafting range than, say, the Cup Series or some of the other series that we run. But if we get late in the race, you got to consider that. You don't want to go into top off if it's going to put you at the back of one of these lanes, because sometimes you got to worry about losing the pack here in the first couple of laps.
Yeah, and you really do see that a lot with the amount of trucks that might stay out, or cars, whatever it might be, that come in and top off with the 2 to go mark on fuel, or the 1 to go mark when they're coming to it. That creates obviously those single file lines. That's how it is. I don't know what the word is really for it. That's how it's kind of made in iRacing is that is what everyone has to do if they come in and top off. And when you have that, when you have like 20 plus trucks that are back here in a single file line, there's already checkups that are bad enough in a 40 truck field, and then you have that amount of what it would be 30 something trucks in one single line. That is a massive problem and is a recipe to have huge checkups happen. Luckily, we did avoid any sort of crashes or large checkups to the point where someone just drilled through somebody. We did not have that happen, luckily, but that can happen on any one of these restarts, and we tend to see that with the trucks too. I think part of that is in the driver's head. They know these trucks can really push hard and push well. They don't really take damage. You can slam draft these things, and I think that's kind of in the back of some people's minds when they come to these restarts saying, hey, I can just go through this guy maybe, and then that creates some of those checkups also as we're coming back to green.
Green flag back in the air. It'll be 29 laps to go at Daytona. Kyler Wynn leads him to the green with Cody Nagels on his outside. Remember, Nagels involved in a crash just a few cautions ago, and just like that, right back to the front. That's what happens when you're able to hold on to the truck and minimize damage. And already starting to see a little bit of separation in the middle of the pack and further towards the back. That long single file line of trucks. Exactly what I talked about happening on the last restart appears to have happened again. Ken McCullough Jr., one of the veterans, going to lead a few more of them up immediately. They know they got to go to try to catch the leaders. Meanwhile, up front, the entire lead pack still 2x2 as they work down the super stretch into turn 3. Advantage to Nagels, but now it's going to go back to Kyler on the inside. Usually the outside's able to get clear. And watch out, because two of the Nightmare eSports teammates are teamed up top.
I will point out, too, I think a lot of people maybe in the audience see this coming up, too. Kyler Wynn's leading. Alex Hill is second on the outside. We might be seeing round 2 of those two going at it again here in a little bit. That depends on if Alex can get his teammate Cody Nagels clear, or if those two somehow come back together anyway. Jared Haynes, we were talking about him earlier. All the momentum he's been on in money racing recently, here he is, finds himself in third. That's a great spot to be in with a teammate behind him and Trevor Osborne out. Now we see Jeff Merck in the number 60 try to dive out to the third lane and bails on it rather quickly. We're still not seeing that third lane exactly develop just yet. And, well, maybe again, Jeff Merck trying to take a look at it with John Ellison to 3. And they're still just going to sit there and park it. Merck with a little bit of damage on his rear end.
Yeah, they're keeping tabs on what's happening up front, but now Dega Pros owner John Ward going to jump to the top looking for some help. He won't get it either, so he'll also jump back down. And a little bit of cat and mouse here to see who wants to lead and who wants to push. Bosnez further back. Now he'll try to lead the charge. We'll see if he can get any takers. As you mentioned, Landon, up front. Right now, Alex Hill leads the outside. If Kyler can push Cody clear, be interesting to see if those two decide to pull out the tape measures, but nonetheless, 34 of 60 laps complete. Seipel's going to go 3 wide as they enter the super stretch.
Nathan Harper, big crash into Jeff Merck. John Ellis involved too. We're still going to wad him up. We got a lot of them here. Dylan Bass and Aubrey Thompson, Axel Smith once more. Mike Davenport and Quentin Steinbach getting a piece at the end.
Big pile up here midway down the super stretch. And a lot of trucks similar to the first one, at least from what I can see. This is so weird the way these wrecks have been here tonight. I don't see a ton of damage on any of these trucks. We'll see who crawls away. I think Harper's got pretty bad damage. I'd take it back. Everybody else, though, I didn't see too many big hits, at least from the camera views we saw in real time. We'll have to see, though, when we go back on replay. So Harper's night might be done. This thing is not quite crab walking, but he's certainly got some pretty significant damage on the left front. You saw the hood off briefly. We'll see, though, if he's able to maybe get it fixed and get it back out on the racetrack. Third caution of the night. Still doesn't put these guys in the fuel window. Still a solid one stop, but getting closer to it, to say the least. Let's go back and see if we can actually find out what causes this caution. Again, broke out right around halfway down the super stretch or so. And it's right as they come off of 2 when they make this move to jump to the high side here. Seipel and Veleke. And really, I think this caught Alex Hill off guard. I mean, if it's Kyler behind him with the history those two had this race, I think maybe he sees it coming, but I don't think he expected in any sort of realm that Seipel would have jumped out here, but Veleke follows him instantly. It's almost as if those two had it coordinated. And Alex now really going to be kind of left alone. He doesn't have any help, but Trevor, ooh, man, I think that Trevor right there, I think Trevor didn't realize Harper was in the middle. I think Trevor saw that those two went up and was thinking he could get to the middle. I don't think he ever realized that Harper was there. And the way it looks, it almost looked like initially Harper thought about jumping up there, and I wonder if Trevor just thought he did, and Trevor goes up to try to take the middle. Nathan's still there. Contact's made. You see Ward and a few others go down to dodge. That's what kicks off one of these wrecks. And then as they start piling up, you're going to see Axel Smith, Corbett. They get turned back to the outside And this is where we see the second wreck, and some of these trucks take some of the hits that we saw. And I'm looking back here. I think Bosnez takes a pretty good shot, and obviously Nathan Harper as well. As for everybody else, Landon, I stand by what I said. I don't see a ton of race-ending hits here.
You're right about that, especially not Nathan Harper. I mean, that's quite a bit of damage for him. I'm really just looking at what what he's going for here. I'm trying to find the right words. I went back on the radio to try and listen. He said he got loose out of the corner, and I mean,
interesting. Well,
love you, Trev, but that's not getting loose.
let's go back to the cockpit view here and see. Yeah, that's an odd one. It certainly doesn't look like he got loose. I mean, he puts a little bit of wheel input up. I just don't know. I agree with you, Landon. Maybe he's driving the truck. He could have felt something that we can't see, but it certainly looks like he just gets up the track. What caused it, I don't know, but it certainly looked initially to me like he was trying to fill a hole that he thought maybe was there. Either way, though, Trevor was okay from this, but obviously he'll probably get EOL'd as a result. As for the rest of the field, though, tough breaks for a lot of guys. We're going to go on board here with Axel Smith, who is right in the thick of it, and he had nowhere to go as this breaks out. Jones in front tries to sneak through, but they just cluster up so quick here, Landon. A lot of times, it's just not really much you can do.
And when everyone's piled on top of each other and you got the third lane going up there trying to make progress, that just makes the traffic jam even worse. People can't see what's going on. The trucks are, I don't think people really realize this, they're kind of tall. It's hard to kind of see through that truck in front of you sometimes, especially when it's all packed up and layered up like that. And when that happens, that's just going to be a cause for the checkups, the rightful checkups of people trying to avoid the crash in front of them. But then it's just going to be a domino effect out back, and that's what we saw really with Thompson and Smith and Davenport, a few others getting involved in this one. Richard
Elliott, John Ellis Jr. both go for big slides down close to the inside wall. I don't believe either of them ever hit it. Mark Londell down there in the grass, as is Kenny McCullough Jr. Joshua McCullough, and John Ellis Jr. A little bit of door-to-door contact there coming out of the wreck, but no harm, no foul there. So as we turn our attention back live at the front of the field now, we have officially reached under 25 laps to go here at Daytona, and it is Nick Seipel currently being scored as your race leader. Alex Hill second, with Cody Nagels third, Malik Ray fourth, and Kyler Wynn currently rounding out your top five. Daniel Falkingham up a handful of spots from where he started this race at. In that sixth spot, Jared Haynes seventh, Dylan Jones eighth. Cameron Craighead up 19 positions from where he started this race at. He's in ninth, and John Ward rounding out your top 10. So still not in that fuel window just yet, Landon, but I got to think we are getting to that point where you start to worry about maybe getting some track position, especially if we start to see a few more cautions here as we go through the rest of these 24 laps.
That's the key to it, really, is you're going to start losing green flag opportunities to make up that track position. And we see that happen a lot where some guys are like, oh, we still have 20 laps to go. It's a lot of time. No, it's not. It is never a lot of time, no matter what car you're in. You need to go, and you need to go now, especially if you're one of these guys way in the back. Like, I'm trying to find an example real quick, some of the heavy hitters. How about Freddie Baznez? He's in 33rd right now. Jeff Merck, Nathan Harper with a damage car, granted. Then you got David Flanagan back here in 37th. Trevor Osmoroth obviously now all the way at the back. These are heavy, heavy hitters that are all the way at the dead back of this field. And they're going to obviously be trying to make something happen, especially like some teammate combos when you got Osmoroth and Flanagan back here. They're going to be trying to make something happen very, very quickly. Nathan Harper, I'm not sure. I want to take one quick look at him before we go back green to see what his truck looks like. Yeah, you don't even have a left front fender. That's going to be pretty tough for him. Green flag's back in the air.
Green flag back in the air, and up front, it's Alex Hill and Nick Seipel who lead him back to the line. Seipel, though, with a little bit of a better restart. Him and Malik Ray seem to have been working together pretty good so far here tonight. We'll see if that duo stays together. Daniel Falkingham up here now as well. You see the 11 of Dylan Jones. He just jumped to the top. And by the way, Falkingham did win the first ever Gen 4 race in PGR not too many weeks ago, maybe about a month or so. And I'll tell you what, I think he wants to go back to victory lane here tonight to kick off quarter three. And it seems like each restart, Landon, we're seeing this worse and worse, this kind of separation of the groups. I mean, we haven't even completed the first lap, and I see 4 different packs, and we show you that on the track map. That field is not as tight as they were on the initial start of the race.
They're not, and really a checkup, that's about like the either the back half of the top 10 or just outside of it. You don't really see them happen right there, and that's what we're seeing. Jackson Buys is back here. I'm trusting who is that? Matt Frady. This is a 12-car lead pack right now. Then you got Quentin Steinbach, Kenny McCullough. These guys are all single file. Looks like all the way throughout the rest of this pack. They'll be able to be okay. They should, in theory, catch back up. And when they do, they'll have a good run. So we'll see what they want to do with it. Really, Steinbach, McCullough, Barksdale, McClendon, those two or those four guys kind of in pairs right now. They're going to have the biggest run and the closest run. We'll see what they want to do with it then. Nick Seipel getting pushed all the way out, not taking it just yet. He's going to let his teammate Malik Ray get back down and get back beside him out of turn number 4 so they can keep controlling these lanes. I'd be looking for a split from Hill and Nagels pretty soon.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I thought he was going to do it right there coming off of 4. It looked like he backed off to either cool or split. And it looks like he decides to stay pushing for now. And he does have a teammate, Cody Nagels, just behind him. But, you know, it's so interesting because we talk about, it looks like the field's separated by about half a track length. But it's these gaps where everybody's still within drafting range of the trucks that they're chasing. And we always talk about the draft being the great equalizer. If you're in draft, you're going to catch the trucks in front of you. And so eventually everybody will start to condense back, or at least majority of them. But yeah, certainly right now, looking like the amount of competitive trucks in the field is starting to slowly decrease as we reach the latter portions of this race. Up front, though, Malik Ray Seipel still in the lead as we get a little bit further back. Some of the names now making their way to the front to give some shout-outs to. Matt Brady in the number 40 truck. He's up here trying to battle it out with some of these guys. Cameron Craighead, Quentin Steinbach, up 25 positions from where he started this race at. And he's been looking around a few times here to think about going to third lane. I think Tucker McClendon might go with him, but he hasn't made any moves just yet. Content at where he is. And Chris Blanchard in the 9 also has tried to make his way through the field. He is now up to 18th.
I'm really looking at the back of the field right now. There's a lot going on around Dylan Basin, Freddie Baznez, Axel Smith, and Kenny Reel just turned somebody. Here we go. We got one up and over. He's back on all 4s. Yellow flag going to fly here on the back straightaway.
That's Gordon Glidewell. And the number 31 that got turned and up in the air. And he's going to bring it to a halt just before the banking into turn 3. Waits for everybody to go by and then gets it back rolling. Don't see a ton of damage on this truck. That's the good news, but again, brings us back under caution. And this is going to put everybody in the fuel window too, so pit stop's going to be crucial here. Let's go see if we can look at a few replays before we get to this pit stop, because I think you're going to see a lot of them bring it into pits here. All right, so for Gordon Glidewell here, let's go see if we can... He was back here... Well, he was in this lead pack, but he was towards the back of it. And that's going to be... Let's see. Let's go even further back here. I don't know if that's where it starts or if that's where it translates back to, but... Oh, it's Kenny Reel. Kenny Reel looks to split the middle, and again, you just... Part of me kind of wonders why, but at the same time, I mean, there's plenty of room to do it, so... I don't think there's anything wrong with making the move. The problem is when, obviously, the contact occurs, and... I think Bosnaz up there was able to do some dirt track, and he saves it. I didn't see anybody actually hit the inside wall. So again, I think everybody escapes, and as for this initial contact, back it up and play it slow for you here. Kenny Reel looks to me, starts to come up. And that's... I'm trying to figure out exactly who that is that he was getting into up here. Couldn't tell exactly who that was, Landon. I'm not sure if you had an idea of who that was. David Drohan. Okay, so that's who he had contact with, and... It looked to me like initially Kenny Reel may have got a little too high when he went up, but then once he kind of evened out, it looked like Drohan maybe started to come down a little bit as well, but a little bit tough to tell from those first couple of angles. What'd you see?
I mean, it looks to me, like I'm trying to liken this to what we saw earlier with Michael Wingo and David Flanagan. From what I can see, it looks like Drohan's maybe very, very slightly coming down, but it's more kind of Kenny Reel coming up into him. That's just my view at these kind of base camera settings that I'm looking at with this right now. And I think that's really going to be it. Both these guys had a run, and oh, what a bad time for Kenny Reel to do that, because a checkup happened right in front of them on that inside lane, and that's what ends up getting Glidewell involved. But Glidewell is going to get away okay. I will say Freddie Baznez took a wild ride through the grass trying to avoid, first off, Glidewell, but then it was Axel Smith in front of Baznez who was trying to avoid Glidewell, and Baznez had to miss that, and that's how he started dirt tracking and sliding all the way through the grass in turn 3.
And we were looking at this from the rear chase view, and I still think I think initially Reel goes a little bit high and then you have Drohan coming down a little bit as well, because initially Drohan has his left sides above the seam and ends with them just barely below it, and Kenny Reel almost has his right sides up to the seam, so that might be a little bit of a tough call for race control. Be curious to see what they decide to go with here, but nonetheless, as they start spinning, you mentioned that crazy ride for Freddie Bosnes. Look at this. I mean, he looks like he's dirt tracking through the corner. That looks like something out of the Cars movie. Nonetheless, so he keeps it together, and we'll go to the onboard view here. See what it looked like for Freddie Bosnes. Is able to miss this one, but it's actually Gordon Glidewell. I wanted to go back here to Freddie Bosnes. Here we go. This is what it looked like for Bosnes. That was about at the tail end of it. What does this look like for him at the start? Man. And I'll tell you what, too, Landon. This is something I feel like it's a little harder to kind of talk about to the people who haven't actually felt it. But I don't know if it was an update. I just feel like the way they've set up the grass now, it makes it so much harder to get traction and actually straighten the truck out than it used to be. I mean, it used to be if you had to go in the grass, things were pretty easy. Now you go down there and it seems like there's potholes through the entire infield or wherever you go through the grass. I mean, it's just so hard to get the truck straightened out. Freddie certainly did a good job of making sure he was able to keep it under control.
Well, it's the potholes and then the fact that it's just a sheet of ice, basically, when you start sliding across that. And when I looked on board with Freddie right there, he did something kind of we saw Cody Nagels do it earlier. It's very intelligent. It's very, it's intelligent. It also just shows how intelligent of a driver those two are with what Freddie just did too. He starts spinning, he realizes that, and what he does is instead of locking the brakes down, knowing that it's basically a sheet of ice, he gassed it up, spun it a little further, waited for it to kind of yaw back to the right, and then got on the brakes, and that was just a perfectly executed save by Freddie Bosnes. It might have saved his race, might have saved a few other races that if he ended up coming back up the track for. Very, very smart move by Bosnes.
Yeah, I agree. As soon as you saw him go down the grass, I was thinking, oh boy, he's going to clean out the field, but a good job not doing that. Back up front, though, lights are off on the pace car, and leading the way is Trevor Osrenoth, currently sitting on the inside of row number 1, and Osrenoth has been helping out quite a bit in the booth as of recent, getting the job done on track as well here tonight. Veleke Ray second, Nick Seipel third, Daniel Falkingham fourth, and Alex Hill in fifth. And as we get ready to get the green flag, do want to take this time to say to everybody watching tonight, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you are enjoying and having a good Thursday evening as you're watching the Intimidator Superspeedway Series. By the way, big event coming up. I believe the official start date is July 31st, and that is the PGR SummerSlam 499, PGR's second biggest race of the year. $1,750 to the winner. And, of course, the SummerSlam belt payouts go all the way back, almost through the entire field. So a lot of ways to make money. Big event. Great broadcast team going to be set up for it. And we're looking forward to that event. These guys getting prepped for that here tonight, although not necessarily in the same car, but certainly going to still be some experience at a super speedway. All right, here we go. Now officially in the fuel window with just 16 laps to go. The gloves are getting ready to come off as we go back green at Daytona. And it's a good restart for Trevor Osrenoth. Veleke Ray on the outside, though. He's gotten lined up with fellow Coke Series driver Daniel Falkingham. And I think that those two are going to start making their way to the front here pretty quickly. The 27, though, on the outside. No run just yet. Nagels will lock up, and it's a 3v3 tandem as they work onto the super stretch.
Take a look. Third and fourth, now second and third on the bottom lane. Alex Hill and Kyler Wynn. How convenient to have those two next to each other. We'll see what they're going to be able to do here. Maybe they'll put their differences aside and maybe try to work together, make this bottom lane move. Kyler Wynn definitely shoving through Alex Hill at the moment, through Nick Seipel also. And they're making that inside lane work for the moment. Trev was able to clear up in front of Veleke Ray. And now Trev with a little bit more momentum on that outside lane. Coming out of the corner through the tribal, he should have a little bit more, might have an opportunity to clear back down in front of the 75 and a 1.
Big Roos asked who they called that on, and honestly, I am not sure. We'll see if we get an answer to that next caution. And if it was Gordon Glidewell, I wouldn't know because I know he had probably pit anyway, but nonetheless, up front, again, still 2x2, and really that extends all the way back through, looks like, is that the 05 of Joshua McCullough, the first of the McCullough Motorsports camp to really start to try to make his way to the front now, feeling like it is go time. We'll see if he can get joined by some teammates here in a little bit. The 22 further back, Brandon Broadfoot, also trying to make his way back up towards the lead pack. Here's Kenny McCullough Jr. and Sean Corbett drafting together, as is the rest of the field, all trying to catch up to these leaders. But coming to 14 laps to go, and It seems like a lot of time, Landon, but it can go quick, especially if you can't seem to find any friends. I'm still wondering how much longer until we see this turn lane work, because further back, looks like Freddie Bosnes, John Ellis Jr. are taking a peek at it.
Freddie had a massive run. Him and Mark Vondell kind of pushed each other back up to the pack. Freddie took it, Vondell did not, and he got at least past like one or two rogue. Oh, here we go. Haynes and Basin topside now. That's going to be a little bit of help to Bazinez. That's going to give him some draft. Frady's taking it now, and there's the 3-wide action. I was going to say Bazinez was the first, and now here comes the whole cavalry topside.
Yeah, you got to start with at least 2. Then you start to get more helpers. The more helpers you get, the quicker the line's going to move. 3 now, but caution is out for an incident that I would assume is further back. It is. Going into turn 3, we got 2 trucks on the apron. Looks like he's at the 31 of Glidewell again. Just got that truck cleaned up, and now he's back involved in this one. Jacob Carter is well involved in an earlier incident, and not sure if that damage was from that earlier incident still or from the one that just happened, but those were the 2 trucks that we saw sliding as we got a bumper piece shooting up in the air over there in the grass in turn 3, but we were coming to 12 laps to go. And I don't know, this is going to put us with a restart under 10 to go. I don't think this is what a lot of the guys wanted to see who are going to try to ride around for a few more laps. But either way, I don't think we're going to see pit stops from any of the leaders here. As go back and look at this one. And for Jacob Carter, you can definitely see he already had that damage here. But as they go into 3, it's going to be him and Glidewell who make contact. And it's going to be a question of who came up, who came down. Let's see here. As they get into the corner, Glidewell well above that black seam. Jacob Carter kind of caught in the middle here. I think he sees that David Drohan's coming up on his inside, and I think he maybe, I don't want to use the word panics, but I think he does get a little bit spooked right there and kind of lets that truck wash up initially. Right at the same time, the 31 does come down just a little bit. I'm not really going to put it on him here because, again, he doesn't come down a ton. I think it's the 38 more so shooting up the racetrack and maybe a little bit of net code as well, but they were going to make contact regardless, and once they do, Glidewell straight up into the outside safer barrier, and that thing almost gets up on its side. As he comes back down, he collects Carter, and wow! I don't know if that was Nathan Harper or somebody else that barely missed it. Unfortunately, Michael Wingo did not, and he had some pretty significant damage from that hit, it looked like.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm really only able to see the beginning part of this crash on my end before they blink out, but it definitely does look like Glidewell is coming down at a pretty significant rate, but at the end of the day, what really initiated this contact was Jacob Carter coming up into him, and as you mentioned, he already has some damage. I'm not sure if that affected him through this or what it could have really been, or if, like you said, he just maybe got a little bit spooked seeing Drohan behind him. Drohan, if you back it up a little bit further, like halfway down the back straightaway, you can see him almost going under the yellow line trying to pass him, and that's a little bit odd. And maybe he saw that and was like, oh, this guy's really desperate to pass me, and then just tried to get out of his way. I'm not sure, but it's just, yeah, you kind of hate to see this happen in the back of the pack, especially right when that 3x3x3 racing was just occurring up front.
I'll tell you what, looking at it again from another view, I almost wonder if you're right about the damage, because it's not like he jerked the wheel to the right when we went on the onboard view there for Jacob Carter. I wonder if he just got a little bit tight in the corner from all that front nose damage that he had, and if that caused him some issues. This is the onboard view for Michael Wingo, who that wreck happens up front, but even though we can see it from here, I think he sees it a little bit later than what, it might look like from the broadcast perspective, because he's not looking for a wreck. He's focused on the back bumper here of David Flanagan until obviously he starts to notice it. He gets out of the gas and on the brakes, but he commits to the apron, and you've got 2 trucks going basically 0 miles an hour versus a truck that's trying to slow down from 180, and there's nowhere near enough room to completely stop. So another tough break there for Michael Wingo, who's gotten collected in really a couple of these tonight, but unfortunately, that's just the way it's gone for him.
Yeah, it's a tough night for Wingo and Carter, too. And when I back this up a little bit more further for Carter, I think it is pretty obvious that at least this truck was very, very slow compared to some guys behind him. They went straight by him. Obviously, still had a little bit of damage involved from one of his earlier incidents that could have been contributing to that. He still sits in the pits at the moment, currently sitting 40th. There is someone else I want to say that's in the pits. David Flanagan's one of them who has a lot of damage. Jeff Merck's another one. 2 guys that we saw up front, really contending up front, trying to go up to the 3rd lane a little bit earlier in the race. Now they are sitting 38th and 39th. Going to be coming to, about 10 laps to go here. They're going to be needing to put some work in if they want to try and get a good finish here tonight.
Yeah, this is definitely go time for sure. And see what, we started this race with a sold-out field, and that means that payouts are pretty substantial here tonight. Let's go take a look at what they're going to be for these guys as we come down to the end and the pay window starts to open. And again, it was a $25 entry fee, and they went back to a little bit more original style PGR payouts here tonight, so it doesn't go quite as far back in the field. But what that means is that the money that each position takes home is higher. $230 to first, $175 to second, $150 to third, $125 to fourth, and everybody finishing in the top 5 is going to make at least $100 here tonight. Sixth place will take home $75, $750, and eighth place going to get your entry fee back at $25. And by the way, if you're watching and you're interested in joining the PGR eSports Intimidator Superspeedway Series, you don't have to run every week. You can run whenever you want. And of course, you have to pay to enter, but you would be eligible for the payouts regardless of skill level. Now, I should mention, and I always kind of forget about this, but the way PGR has set things up now is there is licenses, so all the drivers you see in this series either have the PGR license or the exempt license, which allows them to, of course, race in the Intimidator Superspeedway Series or both the Intimidator Superspeedway Series and the Light Series. New drivers coming in usually required to run a few races of the Light Series first in order to get promoted. So obviously that, but a lot of great trucks still in the field, Landon. 10 laps to go. This is going to be fun to watch to the end.
Definitely will be. You got Nick Seipel, Trevor Osmroth up front. Then you got Hill, Ray, Wynn, Falkingham, Ward, Nagels, Jones, Craighead. This top 10 full of heavy hitters as we take it for 10 laps to go. Seipel with a good jump on the bottom, a good push from Alex Hill. That outside lane really not developing just yet. Veleke Ray not yet to the bumper of Trevor Osmroth, but now he's going to get there entering turn number 1. Trying to get him even. Seipel's going to have the advantage from the entry to the middle of the corner, then give Osmroth the advantage on exit. Osmroth hanging tough on that side draft for the moment. He's going to have the momentum. Out of 2, he's going to get hooked by Veleke Ray. He's going to come back down. Hill's involved. Wind spins Hill. Hill saves it. We're trying to wreck out back, and the yellow flag flies. There was not a crash. The yellow flag has flown for what just happened at the front of the field. We did not have an accident.
And I've never been so happy to see a yellow flag without a caution, because that was going to clean out most of the field. I cannot believe that we did not just see the big one right there. Wynn, Ward, and a few others have some damage, but man, that was a heck of a save. And it looked like Ward there was ping-ponging off of Cody Nagels and was able to eventually straighten it back out. But that was another new kind of rule addition this week that it's been talked about not only through PGR, but a few of the different money racing series is, listen, we got to start throwing these cautions when there's these big checkups, because especially late in a race like this, listen, I mean, we've all had that kind of that feeling before. You're out there, and if you're in the back, you're just worried that if they don't wreck and there's not a caution, but you're lifting in case there is, your race is over. So unfortunately, it kind of forces you to stay in the throttle if you're not sure if there's going to be a caution. But race control saying, no, listen, guys, if they start looking like they're going to wreck, just check up. If there's a big checkup, we'll throw the caution. That's exactly what they did, and I think that may have been the reason that we just avoided potentially a 20-plus truck pileup. Let's go back and take a look at it, though, here. We'll go first, again, to a bit of an aerial cam where this started up front, and I had this on the TV3 because I was trying to show you the run that Trevor Osmroth was going to have, but, of course, he got a little bit out of shape and a little bit loose, which changed that. But here we go. Coming off of turn 2, you can basically push anywhere you want around this racetrack in the trucks. The only thing you got to worry about is coming off of the corner. And initially, I thought that may have been what the issue was, but now that I look back at it, wonder if there was maybe a little bit of right front neck code here from the 77. It certainly looks that way. And as Trevor goes up the track here, I think Malik sees that, and Trevor with the quick thinking able to come down just in time, but that causes Malik to wash down just a slight bit. Some contact between him and Alex Hill, maybe even a little bit more net code between those two. And eventually Alex goes down the nose in front of Kyler. He goes down the track, and then here's Ward trying to save it back up into Nagels. And I thought for sure Ward was going to be kind of the truck, the catalyst to this wreck, but he holds it together, and everybody gets away.
They do, but a few of these guys do have quite a bit of damage, one of them being Alex Hill. He has a lot of left rear damage. John Ward's got a caved-in rear bumper. He's got a left front fender dented in. Kyler Wynn has a right front fender dented in. But at the end of the day, what this was just a whole lot of net code based all around that 77 truck. Initially with Trevor Osmroth, and Osmroth really did a tremendous job saving it, A, and then B, getting back down in front of Veleke Ray. But the problem with that was Hill then net codes off of Ray, which gets into Osmroth again, and then the stack up happens out back when Kyler Wynn gets into Hill, and etc. So that's unfortunate, really, for one of the guys that has been up here for the majority of this race. I will say I doubt that he's actually going to come in and pit, or really for that matter, I doubt any of these guys are going to come in and pit. And if I look back live, it looks like Hill is now scored in 5th, Wynn is 6th, Ward is 8th of the guys that really got somewhat notable damage from this incident we just had.
Yeah, definitely a lot of big saves in this one, but I still think that we haven't seen the big one obviously yet. I still think we're going to see it at some point. It's just a matter of if it happens on the last lap or sometime before then. Either way, this restart, and also it'd be interesting to see because I wonder if race control will give somebody the EOL on that one. We didn't really have a wreck, but we did have a caution. I almost don't think if you're race control you can EOL anyone, because I agree, Landon, that was a whole bunch of netcode from the 77 truck. But everybody, good job saving it, and now we'll set up for another restart again with probably right around, I think it's going to be maybe 6 laps to go. Either way, it's Nick Seipel leading the way up front. He is up 11 positions from where he started this race at, and he's led quite a few of them here tonight. Maybe he's due for a victory. 89 of Trevor Osranoff going to be scored 2nd. Veleke Ray 3rd. Daniel Falkingham back in 4th. There's Alex Hill in 5th. Kyler Wynn in 6th. Cody Nagel 7th with John Ward in 8th. And you've got Cameron Craighead 9th and Dylan Jones rounding out your top 10.
I want to make a quick pick, if I can do that. Someone that's had an extremely quiet night so far. We've barely said his name maybe twice this entire race. Daniel Falkingham. Here he is in 4th. He does not have any teammates around him. That's his biggest issue here, but you can't ever count that driver of the 88 truck out. He is always going to be a factor. And here he is going to be a factor once again. I will point out, during a MMS race last night, Daniel Falkingham pushed Trevor Osranoff to the win over me. Dan pushed Trev better than Veleke pushed me. So now these two are lined up again. That said, that was at Talladega. It was in the trucks, but it was also them on the bottom lane. But we've seen how dominant this outside lane has been. Something to keep in mind here, if Trev can get cleared down in front of Nick Seipel, that's going to box Seipel and Ray in. The problem for Dan also is Kyler Wynn has damage behind him, and he is a teammate to the 75 and the 27. At the end of the day, what this is a massive chess game, and we're about to see it all unfold in front of us.
Well, I'll tell you what, I thought that we just kind of automatically had Daniel Falkingham as a pick every week. The dude's got 8,000 I rating. He's a world-class license Coke Series driver, multiple wins in the Coke Series, in the PGR Intimidator Superspeedway Series. So I just kind of had him checked as he could win every single week. But yeah, I would have to agree. It has been a quiet night so far for the 88. We'll see if it stays that way. But, you know, I think he's one of the exceptions where I agree that he's got a lot of non-team teammates around him, if you will, guys from other teams. But that's one of those drivers where you know that you can push him as hard as you want. If you're in front of him, he's going to push you. So I don't see anybody really leaving that 88. I think Kyler's going to work with them here. I think if Trevor gets clear, it's going to be all about Trevor trying to manage the rest of this race. He's going to have to do it for 6 more laps. Green flag back in the air. The 75 and Nick Seipel gets the better jump. Osranoff on the outside with Falkingham. And which lane is going to get lined up first? Last restart, we saw chaos off of turn 2, but not quite as many trucks together. I'll tell you what, looking back, Wynn and Ward with some damage. They didn't get a good start here, Landon.
They're actually going to be able to suck back up to the back bumper of Daniel Falkingham out of 2. They might be able to, but they're not going to be viable for the rest of this race, and eventually someone's going to try to shuffle them out. On the bottom side is still Seipel with the lead. Osranoff laying a mean side draft down on him, but it's not good enough. Seipel may be clear. He is clear of Osranoff entering turn number 3, and he's going to clear up. Now, here's my thought. These two are teammates. It's very likely that these two are just going to sit here for the rest of this race if we don't see a third lane develop. What if that third lane does come from Mr. Osranoff? Does Daniel Falkingham go with it? That's something we need to keep in mind. We're still looking back at the 82, the 92, Wynn and Ward. They're hanging in there. Those two are not going to be able to lead a line. They might be able to be somewhat good pushers, but they just can't go up and lead a line. So I doubt we're going to see a third lane develop from those two.
I still think the 89 of Trevor Osranoff is in the perfect position here if he can keep the 75 even or in front of the 27. Just like that. That's all he needs to do. Keep doing that. Keep cycling temps. And when you get to that last lap, I think the momentum is going to be on this top lane. Now, again, if a third lane develops, it could change that. But nobody really doing it just yet. Just as I say that, though, here we go. Further back, Kenny Reel. He's going to try the high side with the 51 of Bosnes. Couple more takers now. Looks like the 88's going to jump up. That's Basin. Haynes will go as well. And all of a sudden, the third lane's got 4 trucks with 4 laps to go.
They are really gaining that momentum, and this is a Jack Shack train up there, really. Dylan Basin in the 88, Jared Haynes in front of him, Kenny Reel down now, Dylan Jones up in front of Haynes, and they're going to try and make this work. I'm wondering if Ward or Winter Ozernoth's hooked, and Falkingham's going to get into him. No yellow flag, it doesn't appear. Ozernoth gets hooked by Daniel Falkingham. That's bad news for Nick Seipel. That gives Malik Ray the lead with a push from two Nightmare Esports teammates behind them, and Falkingham dips on Nick Seipel.
Oh, trouble,
this
wrecking.
is tremendous news.
Big.
Oh, wrecking.
Trouble turn 3 here. Oh, man, they're still wrecking.
Still doing it.
Big hits here. Michael Barks, they are still wrecking. Mark Vondell's going to sneak through. That was the 94, though, who piled in a little bit late there. 55 at Davenport, Jared Haynes, Michael Barksdale, Corbett's down in the grass. And, I mean, there's no good break for Ozernoth. That probably just, I hate to say, ended his chances of winning, but it did, I think. 89's got some significant right front damage, and even if he's able to catch back up, he's going to have to get some of that damage fixed. In fact, it's on the right rear as well. It's a really tough break for Trevor, who it looked like was in potentially the prime position. We'll go look at what happened to him potentially if we get a chance, but first, let's see what caused the wreck here. It's all going to start with one truck getting kind of ditched out. This all actually starts, I take it back, this all starts with Trevor Ozernoth getting spit out of line, and it's going to be when everybody eventually just about has it sorted back out. We see the trouble. Here we go. Oh, man. Boy, that was a big, big hook for Trevor Ozernoth. And I'll tell you what, Landon, I don't think from the views we have that this was the 88's fault. I think that Trevor gets, well, does he get net-coated? I can't tell from that angle. We'll back it up again. Initially, it looked like maybe there was some more net code again. We'll go back to the 89 first and see if we can get a bit of a closer view on this. And for Trevor Ozernoth right now being scored all the way in the 30th spot. But here we go. Watch the 88 and watch when that 89 snaps out of shape here. Is there contact? Well, I take it back. There is. The 88 gets into the right side of the rear bumper of Trevor Ozernoth. That starts to get him out of shape. Now, at the same time, 77's doing a lot of pushing here. He starts to get up the racetrack. And again, I'm not saying by any means that this was Alex Hill's fault, but right as he starts to move up just the slightest bit is when Trevor gets that bad push. And now Alex actually gets back into the 89. I think that's the contact that really kind of sparks it. And then obviously when Trevor gets into, Malik tries to correct, gets back up into the outside wall, and then does a really good job here, professionalism, and making sure that he keeps it up there. He could turn the wheel down and clean out the field if he wanted, but tries to keep it out of the way of everybody. And that was initially what I thought was it. I thought that was the whole portion of the wreck here, but then further back, it seemed like as everybody was trying to gather it up, somebody made a mistake here, Landon. What'd you see?
So initially, my first fear was not netcode off Alex Hill into Trevor Ozernoth again, because that would have been the second time. It's kind of tough to see really what that was between Dan getting to Trev and then maybe a little bit of a touch of netcode off of Hill. It's kind of just a combo of things going on there. Where the actual crash came from, it does really originate with this. So fourth in line on the bottom is the 33 of Cameron Craighead. He sees what's going on with her. Kyler Wynn in the 82 comes down to avoid Trevor Ozernoth. That sends Craighead down. They don't contact each other, but Craighead, in the interest of not getting into Wynn, takes it down to the apron. Problem is, he is not allowed a spot back up the racetrack, really, by the 82 car. Jackson Byes is allowed up by John Ward behind that, and then Craighead, in the interest of trying to get back up, it seems to get a little bit tight on the entry of turn 3 on the apron, getting into Jackson Byes. Byes is able to save it. That gets Craighead loose up into Davenport and Haynes, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and we'll play that all the way back for you to show exactly what Landon just talked about. And, you know, I agree on this one here. I really feel like the 82 win should be letting the 33 up there, especially because Cameron was already there and Cameron went low, which kind of helped Kyler avoid any trouble initially. You know, it's tough, though, because in this case, Kyler, obviously, Dylan gets that run and is there, and I'm sure these guys are all trying to yell at each other at the same time. It may have been hard for Kyler to say, Dylan, I got to come up, but it just puts Cameron Craighead in a weird spot here. But then at the same time, I think if you're Craighead here, you got to realize at some point, if you can't get back up, you can't get back up. You can't just stay in the gas until you get to the corner and just go up and clean out the field. I mean, I hate to say it sucks, but at some point you got to realize, okay, nobody's going to let me up here. I'm going to have to let off, and then I can, get mad at him on the chatter. But instead, I think he just tries to force it and hope that a spot opens up. It almost does behind Byes, but instead he clips him, and then that transition from the flat apron onto the banking just unfortunately cleans him out.
That's what it is, and you're right when you talking about Cameron. Yeah, maybe a little bit more guidance right there in the interest of just not wrecking yourself and with other drivers. I do kind of not fault him for it though, because at the same time you're coming to what, 2 laps to go in the race, and you know, like, if you do that, it's game over for you. And if you think you have a little bit of an opportunity to take that and kind of get back up the track in a timely manner and not hit anybody, you got to kind of go for that. The bad side is that he wasn't clear when he came up, and he got into Jackson Buys, and when he did that, that sent his truck in a weird little orient between the apron banking and the actual track banking, and that's what set everything off. But I will point out, too, we're coming to a green-white checkered. This is our only attempt at it. We're going to end the race right here in these last 2 laps.
And one more view of this here from the cockpit of Craighead, and let's actually listen to the throttle inputs here, see if there was anything that we missed and what his point of view through all this was.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna point something out real quick. We're going back green. We've crashed on the restart in the back of the pack.
Goodness.
There's a few drivers that are in this. Mark Vondell was one of them. David Drohan's also involved, it appears, but we're gonna keep it green, and we're still racing at the front of this thing coming into turn 1.
And again, this is the only attempt at a green-white checkered, so 2 laps to go. Alex Hill up front, Malik Ray on the outside. Hill still has a little bit of damage on the left side and left rear, but he does have a teammate at Nagels behind him, and he's tandem with Falkingham on the bottom as well. The 27 of Malik Ray up top, and Seipel doing all the pushing. They may try to get clear by the end of the super stretch.
It's looking good for them now, but just not able to clear Alex Hill. The problem for them is it's 3 teammates up top, 2 on the bottom, but 1 former teammate and Daniel Falkingham behind them. Now you got Matt Frady coming into it to try and assist in that bottom lane's efforts. Malik Ray with the advantage out of 4, I should say.
And it's going to be the white flag, race official, 1 lap to go. Can everybody keep it clean back to the line? Hill and Ray still lead the way, no 3rd lane yet, but the 2nd pack is charging. They're going to have to get there soon, though. You got a lot of ground to make up. Here comes Kenny Reel and Bosnes. Will they jump to the outside? Yes, they do off of turn 2.
They tried. Bosnes going back up. Reel takes it back in front of him, but they don't have any help just yet. Dylan Jones, I thought, might try to take it. He's not going to. Jackson Buys will. Here comes Jackson Buys going to try and make a move. Maybe Jackson Buys can come through and win this race. Heading into turn number 3, still dead even in the lead.
Alex Hill, Malik Ray, both former PGR winners, looking for win number 2. Nobody's going to split yet. Seipel sticks with Malik. Cody sticks with Alex. They try to block the 3rd. Who's got the better run? Back to the checkered flag. Hill on the bottom. Malik in the middle. Malik back to the line is going to beat him. Malik Ray sneaks it out over Alex Hill. I thought Alex was going to get him the last second, but Malik and Seipel with the big decision to go up and cover the run on the 3rd pays off as Malik Ray captures the win at Daytona.
It's a tremendous win by Malik Ray, and I'm kind of surprised that he actually did win this race. Looking at what him and Seipel did out of turn 4, they went up and blocked Jackson Buys in that 3rd lane, and then came back down to the middle and kept all of their momentum just in time to beat Alex Hill by 1/100th of a second. Masterful job by Ray.
Indeed. Wow, what a finish, too. I think official gap is going to be right around 100th of a second. We'll look at official scoring here once we get the final results in, but man, oh man, Daytona does not disappoint. And we got to that restart. You talked about the wreck out back. There's a few things we got to break down here. So before we go to interviews, we'll make sure we talk about those. But first, celebration time for Malik Ray, who's going to bring it around and burn it down. First win in that paint scheme and first win of quarter 3 for the number 27.
Yeah, it is, and you know, this is really a battle of the heavyweights every single week that we have this on Thursdays, and we saw that here tonight with Malik Ray and Alex Hill, 2 guys that have kind of, I think they were tied in the amount of wins they had going into this, if I'm correct on that. I might be wrong. They were somewhere near each other on the all-time stats list for wins in this, and when you have those 2 going at it, trying to win some races, you're going to have a show, and we had a show here tonight. And got a shout out to Nick Seipel. I want to say that's his first podium in PGR. And if it is, that's congrats to him for that, finishing 3rd. Cody Nagels, a good solid run for him tonight in 4th. And how about Jackson Buys getting him a good solid finish in 5th?
That was a classic team versus team battle there. Seipel stuck with Malik all the way through, and so did Cody, sticking with Alex all the way through. And it's about as much as you could ask for from a teammate for both of those guys. And it paid off for both of them. Good finishes for Alex Hill, and obviously Malik Ray is your race winner. Let's see what happened here, though. Let's see. Actually, let's look at the results first, and then we'll go back and look at a few of these different replays here. Official scoring is in. I didn't see any EOLs up front for any of the guys that finished in the money, at least none that I would expect. So Veleke Ray is your race winner. Alex Hill second, with Nick Seipel back in third. Cody Nagels fourth. Jackson Buys in fifth. Kyler Wynn finishes in sixth. Daniel Falkingham seventh. Kenny Reel, the last man in the money tonight, in eighth. Dylan Jones in ninth. And Matt Frady rounding out the top 10.
11th place, we got Freddie Baznez here tonight. Aubrey Thompson coming home for 12th. Nash Brambilla 13th. Josh McCullough 14th. Richard Elliott 15th. John Ward will be 16th. Corey Wright 17th. Dylan Basin for the Jack Shack 18th. Kenny McCullough 19th. And Axel Smith will round out the top 20.
Moving on back here. Our grid did get frozen for just a moment, but finishing back in the 21st spot here tonight, it's going to be John Ellis Jr., Brandon Broadfoot 22nd, Mark Pearson 23rd with Michael Barksdale 24th, Sean Corbett 25th, Tucker McClendon 26th, Jeff Merck 27th, Chris Blanchard in 28th. It'll be Trevor Oswanoth finishing 29th, and Mike Davenport rounding out your top 30. Nathan Harper 31st, Mark Vondell 32nd, David Drohan 33rd, Zachary Harry 34th, Gordon Glidewell 35th, Jared Haynes 36th, David Flanagan 37th, Michael Wingo in 38th, Cameron Craighead finishing 39th, and Quentin Steinbach in 40th. Jacob Carter rounding out the field. He finishes in 41st. All right, before we get your top three, we got a few things to break down. So let's go back and want to talk about a few things. But first, let's look at a replay of this final restart. It's exactly what went so wrong for the guys that were hanging around the back. This is always a concern on restarts in general, but I feel like this one seemed a little bit worse than most that we see here, Landon.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a look back at it now. The first truck I really saw go around was Mark Vondell. Past that, it got a little bit hazy for me to try and see who it actually was. Camera started cutting and everything. So I'm going to take a look back at it now. But again, we were talking about this earlier in the race. You're going to have this happen on restarts. You're going to have these checkups. You're going to have these activities happen. And looking back at it now, it looks like David Drohan gets into Vondell. It spins Nathan Harper out in the 4 machine. David Flanagan then gets into Davenport and Jeff Merck a little bit, and they're able to continue on from there. But it's just really, it's insult to injury for these guys in the back of the field.
And this one's a tough one because I'll tell you exactly what it was. I think Race Control absolutely wanted to throw a caution, but you can't because they just got the restart. If you throw a caution, that's going to end the race. So they couldn't really throw the caution in that circumstance, even though I'm sure they wanted to. And then obviously up front here, as we go back to the checkered flag, this was the move for me that I didn't expect them to do this here, but I think this is the move that ultimately helped Veleke Ray win this race. Obviously, great pushing from Seipel, but they choose to go up and block the third lane. How often do we see the two guys in the middle go up and block the third together? I just feel like that's unheard of anymore, but they choose to do it. Seipel goes back to the middle. I'm not sure if he was trying to cover a block on Kyler or if he was trying to make a move on Veleke. Either way, Malik's able to cover it, gets back down to the middle, and from here it's just about pushing back to the checkered flag. The middle's got just a little bit more help, but the bottom did start to make a comeback. I think if this was either Talladega or if Alex Hill had, I don't know, another 50, 100 yards, maybe he's able to sneak back up and steal it.
Yeah, and I'm really just as confused as you and really anybody else that saw that happen live. In a way, I'm surprised that worked for them, but in another way, I'm not. See, initially, what those two were doing, moving up to the outside lane, is losing them some momentum. They're going further up the racetrack, further up the banking, fighting against gravity more and more. And they're going to lose a little bit then, but then on the back end of that, where they're off the corner, they regain the momentum as they're on the top side of the racetrack and then come down to the middle. And I think the same thing, really. I think Seipel was trying to go for the win here on his teammate, or at least maybe a better spot. Veleke Ray came down and blocked it, and that was really what sealed the deal for Veleke Ray. I'm surprised the inside lane did not have a lot of momentum either. I would have expected them to gain quite a bit more of an advantage when those guys went up to block the third. They just didn't do it, and then when they were able to come back down and side draft them, and it was game over from there.
Yeah, it certainly was. The other thing that I was hoping we'd get a chance to talk about, I know we had to switch back live there, that restart coming a little bit quicker than we had time for, but it was really just, you know, it was interesting to me how we had just talked about the fact that Race Control threw that caution to be safe before, and it worked out. In this case, I feel like we showed exactly what happens when you don't throw the caution. We had Trevor Oswanoth go up in the wall. The whole field spreads out, checking up, guys fanning out onto the apron to save it. But Race Control says, it only looks like one truck, so we leave it green, and then it leads to a cautions, and it leads to wrecked trucks. So it's just, again, I'm not saying race control did anything wrong. I'm just saying that you kind of see why we're trying to work towards maybe making a better solution for when things like that happen. But it's something that certainly caught my attention right there at the end.
That's a very good point. I hadn't even considered that just yet, but that is something, really in the long game instead of just the short game aspect of this stuff, where you're going to have things like that happen. When you throw a caution, everyone knows cautions bring cautions. That's how it works in NASCAR. That's how it works in this. It's just how it is. It's a driver's mentality to go out and be aggressive, and especially when crunch time starts rolling up, they're going to go out there and try and do everything they can to gain their track position, go out there and try to win the race. If they don't, then they shouldn't even be out there racing or driving. So in a way, you can't blame them. At the same time, you have race control throwing a caution, which is good for at least saving the rest of the pack from any sort of haywire and damage and crashing and anything like that. But like you say, it then results in some more cautions after that. But on the backside of that, who's to say they weren't about to wreck a lap later anyway? And then that's when more questions come in. It's a lot to think about, and that's why it's really difficult to be a race control. And you got to really appreciate guys like Michael Triscaro, who does this every single week, and what he has to put up with.
All right, well, that's enough from us. It's time to hear from your top three, including your race winner. That's who we'll start with first. None other than the 27 of Veleke Ray. Let's bring him up here and see how he's feeling. Hey, Veleke, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Hey, Austin, how you doing?
Good, man. Well, first race of quarter three and first win for you in the quarter. You start things off really good, but, man, we were just talking about that not only the restart being crazy, but really that last lap and the move that you and Seipel made was something we haven't really seen before. Tell us about what made you guys decide to make that double block up to the top, and I feel like maybe that was all the momentum you needed to win the race.
Yeah, so like it's really just like a team environment over here, and we all just try to look out for each other. And we were calling that out like down the back straightaway, and they were going into heading into turn 3, and he said that he was gonna go up. I made the conscious decision to follow him up there, and then obviously like he tried to. Now like we didn't try to tandem block. We just kind of saw that they were both coming, and we knew that we weren't gonna win like where we were. So when he went up, I went up because I knew Jackson was going to hit him. And then once he hit him, he hit me. And then it kind of just, like it just gave us enough speed to just push forward past Alex and Cody on the bottom. So I appreciate that a lot from him and Kyler. I appreciate each of them, or all three of them, actually.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we also saw you not caught up, but close to being caught up in a few different incidents here tonight. And we always hear people talking about you always need a little bit of luck at these super speedways. Did you feel like you had a little bit of extra luck with some of the close calls you had tonight?
Yes. I think it's really all just about I'd say like positioning. I don't necessarily believe in luck, but I mean, like if you can put yourself in the right places and you can have, just have stuff go your way, then I mean, I think you can, end up on top.
Well, last question that we got for you here tonight, Veleke, is we know the SummerSlam's coming up soon. Obviously, you won that race last year. You're going to try to defend the belt. Do you feel like you get any extra practice from these races? And is there anything that you can take and try to learn for that race coming up in a couple of weeks?
No, I'd say to just try to just build team trust. I mean, you're only as strong as your teammates. If your teammates are ass, then you're ass too. So, I mean, I have the best teammates in here, so that's why we're up on top every time. So that's really all I got to say on that one.
That's certainly one of the funniest ways I've heard that. But, well, I'll tell you what, we'll let you head out to celebrate, Veleke. So before we do, though, is there anyone that you want to thank or shout out tonight?
My boy Nick Seipel, Kyler Wynn, and Jackson. I appreciate all three of them for their help.
All right, and Veleke, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the race win. Not your first, but certainly not going to be your last either. Hopefully we'll see you again next week.
All right, see you guys.
All right, now that's going to bring us up to your second place finisher here tonight. It's Alex Hill, and Veleke stands by with him.
Alex, Landon in the booth, got a copy.
Yeah, I got you.
So we saw a very well-executed race by you here tonight. It wasn't a win, but it's still a second-place finish by you and your teammate Cody Nagels. Y'all went out there. Y'all made it look pretty easy going to battle with Veleke Ray and Seipel, Kyler Wynn, and all that. We saw you and Kyler get into a little bit earlier into the race, and I do want to ask you about that first. Was that just a bout of frustration coming from the both of you, or was that just two of the greatest out here going at it?
No, it's not frustration. I just didn't really care. I was just trying to just do something, man. I got bored.
That's definitely a very good way to put that.
I mean, but nah, yeah, it's always good to race him, man. He's a good driver. He ain't bad, and we did our thing tonight, man. We tried to throw on a show. We executed our pit stops. You know, we didn't slide through our stall once. It's just cleaning up those little mistakes that cost us the race. So we'll move on to the next race and see if we can't get the win.
That's a good outlook. We got a positive outlook to have for you and your team. And when we really talk about this one, coming to the finish of it, you were up front the whole race. You had a little bit of damage that was as a result of some things that happened on that final caution that we had, or one of the final ones, I should say. And you had that damage. You still were able to overcome that, bring home a podium. What do you think you really needed extra there at the end to try and beat Veleke Ray here tonight?
I just need to be in the top lane. The top lane was just really strong all night. They just got that side draft every time in 3 and 4, and then they were just always first to the line. So I think if me and Cody were lined up top, that situation's a little bit different. But you know, what can you do?
Oh, here we go. That's the word from our second place finisher tonight, Alex Hill. Do you have any thank yous or shout outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, thank y'all, everyone over at PGR eSports for the broadcast. Thank you to Mike for putting this thing on. And thank you to everyone over at Nightmare Esports and Jack Shack.
There we go. We appreciate you talking to us, Alex. Congrats.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and now that is going to bring us to your final podium finisher on the night, none other than Nick Seipel. Nick, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, I'll tell you what a heck of a performance by you and Veleke Ray over the course of those last 2 laps. You end up having to settle for 3rd, but was the plan to push Veleke all the way home? And tell us about kind of what was going through your head as you came off of turn 4. Looked like maybe you tried a couple of moves, but couldn't quite make it work.
I don't even know what I was thinking. I just saw that 3rd lane roll and wanted to pull up and not only stop the momentum, but see what kind of run I could get. Was also like about to blow up, trying to get some air, but ended up working out. The plan was just kind of to try to get Veleke clear and see what else we were able to do, kind of control the lanes however we could. But yeah, I'm perfectly fine with P3 rather. Got Veleke the win, so I'm happy with that.
Still a good payday, finishing that 3rd spot as well. Well, you know, obviously, you know, we look at what you did tonight. You lead a ton of laps and you do finish 3rd. We look at when you started Money Racing quite a little while ago, and you're one of the drivers who made so much progress so quickly, and now you're up here easily with the big dogs. I mean, how do you figure things out that quickly? I know all along that you still had the skill, but it's still just a different ballgame when you come in and race with these guys. How'd you figure it out so quick?
Didn't say it was easy. I think this is my first podium on a Thursday, so I was definitely still improving. But I think just racing, as much as you race with these guys, you get better and you learn all the things. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, thank these guys I race every week. Thank this community. They got me so much better.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Nick, before we let you head out here tonight to go celebrate your earnings, is there anyone that you'd like to thank or shout out?
Just want to thank my teammates. That was Veleke, that was Kyler, that was Freddie. I think Freddie got wrecked earlier, but it was whatever. Thank you guys for broadcasting. Thank you, obviously, Triscaro for putting it on.
Thank you for talking to us. Nick, again, congrats on the 3rd place finish, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, thank you guys.
All right, well, that's just about going to wrap up our coverage here tonight, but it was a bit of a crazy race, Landon. We were off to a promising start. It makes me wonder if we'll get to see more of that next week.
I highly believe that we will be seeing more of that next week. This was a little bit of an odd race. You know, we started really clean and green, and then we saw Alex Hill and Kyler Wynn going at it, and that kind of set off the chain of cautions that we had. And usually when one comes out, the rest of them do, and we see that happen pretty often. But even throughout the green flag racing that we had, it was some pretty good racing here tonight. I would say, even though it was pretty 2x2 for the most part, the way that 3rd lane went, and I'm still very, very surprised we didn't see more people try to take advantage of that. Every time someone went up there, which we only saw it like, 3 times tonight, where it actually went up there and absolutely dominated. They drove by everybody, and we kind of missed out on a little bit more of that I think we could have had here tonight. But at the end of the day, it was still a pretty relatively clean race ran by the guys up front, and a really good win by Veleke Ray.
Certainly was. All right, that's going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Daytona. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed. We'll be back next week with more of the PGR Intimidator Superspeedway Series. Dawson Wise will be returning to the booth with me for that. And then, of course, the SummerSlam 499 coming up in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. And that's it for me, Austin Green, alongside Landon Veleke tonight. And until next time, have a good night.